Serving their community is who they are because they love where they live. REMAX 3D Real Estate is proud to bring you Heart of Greenville, a video series dedicated to celebrating all the wonderfully great things about Greenville, Texas. On every episode, Dennisha Denney will share Greenville's story through the stories of people who call Greenville home. This is Heart of Greenville.
Hey y'all, I'm Dennisha Denney, your host of Heart of Greenville, and today we're sitting on the third floor at the landmark on Lee Street at The Landing. And my special guest today is Ms. Gail Sprinkle. How are you today, Gail?
I'm great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show today.
I was delighted to be invited. Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're just going to be fully transparent. We're friends on Facebook.
Yes.
And we communicated about Dennis's event that was recently for his birthday. That's the extent of our knowledge of each other.
Isn't that amazing? We live in the same town, and I see you on Facebook and all the amazing things that you're doing in real estate and, in fitness.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with your
Aw,
fitness journey. That's really
thank
great.
you.
And Dennis, and
Yes.
so that's our special bond.
It really is. Yes.
So a few weeks ago, we were able to celebrate his birthday at Uptown Forum. We had artists and musicians, and they all came to me through Dennis. That's how I knew all of them.
I know. Dennis Strickland was just one of a kind. I mean, he just was amazing. And you couldn't leave a conversation without smiling and feeling like a better person, and your spirits were lifted. And
Uplifted, yes.
Yes. I'm so thankful that you guys put that together to celebrate his birthday. He would have loved it so much.
It was such a special day. We also had your video that you had done with him. I'm so glad you had that opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much.
We played that on a loop, and people really enjoyed it.
You know, he was one of my first few videos that I did. He was within the first 10 interviews that I did on Heart of Greenville. And, he didn't want to do it at first, but he did. He agreed to do it. And I convinced him, I'm like, okay, we will come to your apartment. You don't even have to leave. And
Smart.
So we actually shot it in his apartment. And it's still one of my favorite stories, just getting all of his story. But then when he passed away, it showed me how important the show is and how we see each other every day in this town. We see each other on social, but we don't know each other. And we have some really amazing people in our community. And so it just put gas on my fire that this show is important, and it's important people get to know one another. So thank you for watching it, and thank you for showing it at his birthday celebration. That meant a lot to me.
Good. Well, thank you for making it. The thing about Dennis, too, was he was always focused on the other person. He was always focused on you and never himself.
Yes.
And so I'm glad that you had that opportunity to interview him, because we didn't always know Dennis's story.
Right. And, it was funny. He was sitting at the Texan the day I convinced him. And, he was just like, I'm living my best life. And, and he's like, I'm old. Nobody wants to hear what an old man has to say. And I was like, Dennis, because of what you just said is why I want you on the show, because you are living your best life at your age today, and people need to see that and not ever feel like they're too old for anything. And it was so inspiring to me to see him still so full of life. And so he said, all right, I'll do it.
Good job of convincing him.
Thank you. Well, it does mean a lot that he has said yes to me. Okay, but we're on the Gail show. Let's talk about Gail. I want to get to know you and what you do. So, have you always lived in Greenville? Tell us, how did you get here?
I was born and raised here, and then I went away for 40 years, and I came back to see about my mom.
Oh.
So I came back to Texas in 2009 and lived in Fort Worth and then Dallas, and then I ended up being back in Greenville full time because I really needed to take care of her. And what an opportunity that was. I got to spend, her last years with her, and so that was really special.
That is really special. Well, what did you do in those 40 years?
What didn't I do in those 40 years? So I lived in D.C. for a long time and really loved every minute of it. I didn't even think of D.C. as a political town. It's built on a swamp.
Really?
Yes.
No,
yes,
I didn't know
it
that.
was. It was built in a swamp. So it probably inspired my love for architecture, because the architecture there is so interesting. And the way they planned the city was so interesting. It was Pierre L'Enfant, and he's the one that well, I could curse him now because trying to drive there is a nightmare. But there are all these traffic circles. But if you have the bird's eye view, it's a beautiful city.
Really?
Elegant architecture, and it's walkable.
I was going to say, but it's not functional to drive, it sounds like.
It's horrible. It's horrible to drive, which is perfect because I moved there. I had a car. I moved there, I don't remember whenever. And my family was terrified when I told them that I was going to sell my car. I moved there in August or so of a certain year, and I sold my car by Thanksgiving because it just sat there. I never used it. I walked. I took taxis. I rode bikes. I, did the buses. I did metro.
Right.
And it was just a burden to have a car and have to try to park it and drive it around all this crazy.
And paying for parking? That was
Paying for
really
parking,
unnecessary?
Gasoline, insurance. It's extraordinarily expensive to operate a car.
Yes.
But we do it in Texas because we don't really think about it.
We don't have any other options.
We don't have any other
Right.
options because our cities were designed for the automobile and not for people.
Yes.
So,
and
yeah.
we're so big, so we're so spread out, too.
Yes.
So it's a fun lifestyle. I've not gotten to live that lifestyle where I don't need a car, but my brother lives in San Francisco, and so I've experienced it with him.
What a great city.
And it's like, this is so cool that you actually don't have to have a car.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So I also lived in the south of France for a few years, and this was before then.
Really?
And that was, I guess, my first experience being a pedestrian. And
Did you know French? Like, did you know the language?
I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. Let me put it this way. I have not yet become fluent.
Okay. Work
But
in
I can get
progress.
by. I can
Yes.
get by. And so that's a passion of mine.
What prompted you to go to France and move to France?
Just because I wanted to, yeah. I was going to go to a language school. I think about, sometimes
What
you
is
forget
that?
why you did things.
Right.
Because life turns.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does. So what type of school was that?
It was a language school.
Oh, a
So I was
language
going to
school.
go for
I'm sorry.
4 months.
Okay.
And that was the extent. So I was in a place in my life where I could be, just free and easy. So they canceled the school. But I had already set, it was the first time I had ever set a goal in my life. It was the first goal I'd ever set. Because I didn't understand goals. I really didn't. I'm so goal-driven now that's so hard to remember back then. It was the first goal I ever set. And I remember getting off the train in Avignon and like, I made it. I made it here.
How old were you? Roughly. You don't have to give me
In
exact.
30s.
In your 30s.
Yeah, I was in my
So you were in your
30s.
30s before you set
Yeah.
your real first goal.
Yes, I was.
How
I was.
phenomenal.
Yeah. And so.
Okay, what prompted you to set a goal? Something said, I'm 30, I need to set a goal. What happened to say, I need to set a goal, and then you set the goal?
Well, I was hanging around in Europe with a friend of mine. We were just on a trip, and we went to Brussels, and it was just really random, and kind of ended up hanging out with this guy who said, why don't y'all move to Europe? And we said, we can't move to Europe. We have apartments and jobs and cars. And he's like, yeah, you can. It's like, no, we can't. So I went back and I thought, you know what? I can. And that's how I learned. Every decision I made was, is this going to get me to France to live?
Wow.
And it was the clothes I bought or didn't buy, the places I went or didn't go. And it was that discipline of saving up the funds and taking lessons and just working toward that goal.
Yes.
Changed my life completely.
That is incredible. I love that so much.
Yeah.
How
I
long
went
did
from-
it take you to raise the money to do that?
Oh, probably a couple of years. And so that was my first
Yes.
goal was really long term.
Yes.
But,
But not
I
in the
went,
big picture of life.
not in the big picture of life, exactly. And it took me a
Right.
while to figure that out too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I went for 4 months and stayed for a year and a half.
Oh,
Yeah.
you thought you were only going to stay for 4 months.
No, I was there a year and a half. About, yeah.
I'm so inspired. I love that story. So was France what you thought it was going to be? You stayed longer than 4 months.
That's a really good question. I had no idea what it was going to be like.
And did you go by yourself when
Yes,
you moved? Okay,
I
so you
did.
moved
I went
yourself.
by myself and ended up with a whole, gang of folks from all over the world. And a lot of them spoke English, and I got lazy and spoke English, but they were from, they weren't American, they were from all over.
Right.
And, but I did progress in my language. I just didn't get to where I wanted to go. But I also learned a lot about culture and more about American culture and how we kind of live to work and how the French work to live. And that really has informed my life as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We really do that. We do have that backwards.
Yeah.
We really
and
do.
I love work.
Yes.
But sometimes our priorities are a little skewed.
They are. They are. We could take some lessons from the French. I've been to France too, and it is a much different environment and lifestyle and just quality of life, and kind of not taking things for granted.
Exactly. And the long meal with friends.
Yes.
And it's not about the food. Of course, the food's delicious, but it's really just about the fellowship and the stories and life. Yeah.
It really is. So did you get a job and start working there?
I did. I fell in with some people who were teaching English, and so I had regular classes in elementary schools and in a junior high and for adults too. And then I babysat and did all kinds of things like that. So yeah, I made my...
So you created a life.
I created a life, yeah. I really loved it.
What, did you live in an apartment? Like what was your living quarters?
I did. I lived in an apartment. Well, first of all, I moved in with a woman by the name of Madame Cambolive. She was a trip.
So beautiful. I love it.
She was a trip. So, and that was just through connections. So I
Okay.
ended up staying there for a while. And then I moved to several different places, had different roommates, lived in apartments, lived in houses. And then I became kind of a semi-au pair where I lived with a person who was a nurse, and he had a son who was 6 years old. And so I was kind of there because he would go on calls and at night sometimes, and so I would stay with the child. So it was a great get-up. He was a really great guy. I really liked his girlfriend, and the son was adorable. So
how
we had a good time. Yeah, but then it was time to come back.
That was my next question is what prompted you to come back?
Well, it was time for me to come back and get a real life, too. And I loved every minute of living there, but I was ready to progress in my own life, and I had understood about, now that I know how to set a goal, and I set a goal of actually graduating from college. I was on the 20-year plan. I was, and I came back, and I decided I wanted to get my degree, and I had a full-time job and sometimes a part-time job as well, and went to night school 5 years straight through, never looked up. Yeah.
So what was your degree in, and where did you go to school?
Literature.
Okay.
I went to UTD.
Oh. So what did you end up doing with that degree then when you finished?
Not a thing, although I can write. But it's amazing how difficult it is for some people to actually construct a sentence. And so I think it served me very well.
Oh, I'm
Even
sure.
though when I was younger, people told me, don't major in English, don't major in literature because you can't do anything with it. You can do everything with it. It's a great degree to have.
It is. It is. I mean, if anything, you're just well versed and can write beautifully, and that's a lot of life. That
It really
we
is.
do. But you also, I mean, literature too is a lot of learning and growing, and just that's really cool that you did that. So what did you do then? I know we're kind of going in a timeline, and I don't mean to do that, but your story's so interesting.
I'm kind of circled around a lot. I worked for the American Red Cross then. I was in Dallas, and I worked at the local chapter there, and I loved it. It was such good. I loved the mission of the Red Cross. And when I got my degree, finally, and I would not let my family come to graduation because I knew that they would all stand up and yell, "It's about time!" So
Did you walk the stage alone then? No one was there?
I wouldn't let anybody come.
Are we a little independent, Gail?
A little, maybe a little. I'm the youngest, so I had a longer way to go to become independent. But yes, I am very. So I had my degree in my hand, and I had a job offer for Washington, D.C. to go to the national headquarters of Red Cross or to go into the Peace Corps.
Oh.
And so that was my big decision, and I decided to go to Red Cross in Washington. loved living in Washington and loved working at Red Cross. And then I ended up going into the Peace Corps after that. So I was
So you ended up doing both.
I did. And I'm glad I did it in that sequence.
Right, right. So how did you get introduced to the Peace Corps? How did that fall into place?
I had always wanted to do that. I'd always wanted to travel. And not just tourist travel, but really go and really immerse myself in the culture.
Yes. Tell me what they do. I don't know that I really know what they do.
Well, they send volunteers abroad in certain countries that they have an agreement with, and the gig is usually 2 years.
Okay.
And it depends on the country as to what you do. So you will think about people in Africa, building grass huts or something, or doing wells and things like that. A lot of language teaching, which is very good, business development work, and so there are so many different things you can do. I was actually in the Posh Corps, so I went
What is
to
the Posh Corps?
The Posh Corps is where I was in Pleven, Bulgaria, and I lived in a brand new apartment over. It was really funny. Over a little grocery store, but next to that was an internet cafe because the internet wasn't that common, and there were all these 13-year-olds smoking cigarettes and doing whatever else and playing video games all night long.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. But I worked in the municipality, so I say I was in the Posh Corps because I wore a suit to work every day. And they gave me a cell phone first thing, so I had a cell phone in a brand new apartment, and it was a great experience.
Oh, that's funny. Did you name it the Posh Corps then? Is that what you called
No,
yourself?
that was
Or is that
was
a real
already
name?
that's what people call it when they have a gig like that. That's seems a little cushier, but it's just as stressful. Yeah.
All of those things come at a cost.
They do. They do.
They do. Having the new apartment, having the cell phone still comes at a cost.
It does.
So what kind of things did you do there then?
Well, I worked in the municipality, and
Is that
we
like a city?
a city
like
government.
Working for city government?
Right.
Okay.
So I was working for the mayor, and I
Okay.
was in the economic development department.
Okay.
And so we did things like we had a conference that we brought people in and talked about. I did not talk because my Bulgarian wasn't good enough, but I could get by. And but we had speakers who came in and talked about international development and how to attract investors in,
Okay.
and those kinds of projects. And so, so I worked with those kinds of things, worked with marketing. I worked with the chief of staff, and her English was really good, but the syntax, wasn't always great.
Right.
And so she would pace the floor and just pontificate, and I would just be getting it down. And so, because I can turn a phrase, and she would say, I wanted to say this, and then I would just be, kind of translating and transcribing. And so we did a lot of marketing materials and that kind of work.
How fun.
It was a blast.
I bet. You're such a world traveler. Where else have you gone?
Gosh,
So what did you do after that? Did you come back to the States after that?
I did.
Okay.
I came back to D.C.
Okay.
Yeah, because
DC just kind of keeps pulling you back.
I love D.C. It's a great place to live, and just forget about the politics. Set that aside. This art and music and
Yes,
architecture
and the history
and life and just the setting is so beautiful.
I've not been. I have to go.
Yeah, yeah.
I love New York, but I've not been to DC.
See, I've only been to New York a few times.
Oh.
Yeah, and was fascinated every time.
Yes, I know. I love the history and the architecture, and just I fall in love every time I go. So now the way you're talking about DC, I'm like, I think I would like that. I need to go check it out. So
I really, it was really different from New York, and you reminded me of a story. I went to New York, had a great time, and I had only lived in D.C. about 6 months maybe, so I was just really kind of getting into it. And so I was walking with a friend in New York, and we were talking, and then we got in the cab, and they have the glass there, and it was just all very scary, and our conversation stopped dead while we were in the cab. It was just all very serious, and then we got out and we resumed our conversation. So I went back to D.C., and from the train station, got into a cab, and it was this older woman with her boyfriend was in the front seat, and the windows were rolled down. It was a gorgeous day, and she was like, "So how was your trip? Where'd you go?" I said, "Went to New York." "New York City. I bet that was fun." It was just so casual and friendly and open and spring.
Yes.
It was very different from my experience in New York, although I thought New York is intriguing.
Yes, that probably made you feel like you were home.
It did. That's
Yes.
exactly it. I'm like, oh, I can relax now. I'm home.
Yes. Oh, that's so cool. You got put in that cab on purpose.
I did. It was lovely. Yeah.
Yes. Oh,
I love people who love their jobs, too.
yes. You have to love, I mean, you should love your job doing that. And she clearly did love her job to want to stop and have that conversation with you.
Yeah.
Wow. So did you spend most of your time then in DC at that point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So did your mom get ill and that's what caused you to come back to Greenville
Yes.
then?
Yes. Yeah. She had Alzheimer's.
Oh,
so,
I'm so sorry.
yeah.
That's it can be such a long, drawn out
It really
disease.
was, yeah.
And it's so hard to watch your loved one go through that. How many years were you here before she passed away?
I came, it was about 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And she was at a Colonial Lodge, and they were wonderful. And then she went to
Yes.
Briarcliff, and they were terrific. She got wonderful care.
Oh.
And so I would go every day and, spend the dinner hour with her and help her eat. And so, yeah,
Oh.
it was a special time.
So now that she's gone, does it make you think, oh, I can go back and travel anywhere again now? Or did you make Greenville your home again and this is where
Well,
you're going to stay?
I also bought Uptown Forum from Jenny Cunningham.
That
So,
makes things a
yeah.
little more permanent, doesn't it?
Yeah. So we're having a wonderful time. But, it's really living in France and living in Bulgaria and living in D.C. really informed me in how a city can be. And so I really hope to bring that to Greenville, too.
Yes.
It's walkability and how vibrant it can be and how comfortable it can be, too.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And you haven't owned it very long then, have you?
I'm going on 6 years
Okay.
this year.
Oh, wow. Time is just flying by.
It is.
And I love that little shop, the Uptown Forum. There's so many great little shops there. And I love what y'all are doing now. There's so many, I see it on social media all the time. Somebody's doing something, especially the little book club where people are
Yes, yeah.
telling about books and reading
Oh,
books.
that was
and-
so much fun. We're going to do that again.
That was really cool. So I love that you're doing that and you're bringing that culture into us, which is a great transition for us to talk about what you love about Greenville. So let's talk about that for a few minutes. What does Gail
Okay.
love about
Okay.
Greenville?
What I love is downtown. I really do. Downtown is coming along. It's had some
Yes.
challenges. COVID's been challenging for us, but it really is coming along. And I love being at Uptown Forum. I love having the diverse kinds of businesses we have there and the community that we have. Upstairs, of course, is like by appointment services. So we
Right.
have, a salon, a massage therapist. We have Balfour, the cap and gown people, Britex Bubbles. We have Friendly Radio.
Yes.
Robert Smith has a studio up there, and our, our hair salon too. Our art gallery is going to expand, so that's
Oh.
going to be really fun when they're redoing one of the rooms is going to be gorgeous. And then downstairs, of course, is retail with Pizzo's and Lenore Cole and the bookstore, the Win the Willow. We also have the chocolate shop. Have you been to Cheeseboro and Campbell Chocolates?
I have sampled their chocolates. They are so good.
Oh my gosh. People are just coming in from all over.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know as you're listing off all these things, I'm seeing like culture from around the world inside your
Really
shops,
is.
inside the Uptown Forum. Maybe that's kind of your thing,
Well,
just bringing.
It is. It's, because my motto is build the city you want to live in. And so that's what we're trying to do.
That's cool. I
Yeah.
love that. Build the city you want to live in. Yes.
Yeah.
We need to remember that.
Yeah. I stole it. It's not original to me. I stole it from somebody else.
That's okay. We can take it on and keep moving that forward. But no, I think that's so important that you do. And you have to plan and know what you want and to build what you want your city to be. Oh, man. So tell me some other things that you love about Greenville.
I love Landon Winery. I really do. I'm afraid they're going to start charging me rent there. But it's such a great place to have meetings. And so we have a lot of community meetings, and we have them there. And it's just very comfortable. And, of course, the staff there is great, and their wine is great, too.
Yes.
But it's just a gathering center.
It
and
is.
I really enjoy that.
It's kind of like time stops when you go inside.
It does.
And it's kind of probably what you experience like in France, where you come together and you're social and sharing life, and you forget you're sitting in Greenville, Texas, honestly.
Yeah.
And I love to sit outside on their outdoor patio,
Oh, isn't
too.
that great?
Yes. It's one of my favorite places to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
It has a very, very different ambiance, but it does remind me a little bit of Cheers, where everybody knows your name.
Yes.
Yeah. and
That's
I
kind of
love
how
that.
the whole town is. You know, you go in somewhere and you see someone you know, and everyone. I love it. I want to go to Cheers. That's actually on my vision board, to go to the Cheers bar.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, have fun.
So I've always loved that show, but I feel like that's what we have here, you know, in our community. Just everybody loves one another and supports each other. And you can't walk down the street, even downtown, you can't walk down the street without seeing someone you know and saying hello to them. And
That's true. I saw friends when I was walking over here. Yeah.
yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just, our conversation before this one was with Kevin Banks. And so I know you know him. And so I learned a lot about him. You're going to watch his episode. But I think the two of you together with your experiences are phenomenal. And I think you can do great things in our downtown.
Well, Kevin is a gift. I mean, he brings so much energy and creativity and talent.
Yes.
And passion.
And passion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
But so
so-
do you. You're bringing so much culture to our community, and just that desire and want for us to be a better community and have more things available, and expanding that cultural experience.
And being more inclusive, too. Yeah.
Yes.
And one thing that we're doing is, you know, Uptown Forum has always been affiliated or associated with Janine, who
Yes.
has done amazing things for this town.
Yes.
And Calico Cat.
Yes.
And she made it an amazing business there. But we're pivoting a little bit towards the arts. And so you'll see more art coming to Uptown Forum, art, music, dance. And so that's our pivot that we're working on right now.
I love that, because you're making it your own. That was a great era, and she did a phenomenal job with that. But I think it's great what you're doing. You're making it your own. And I'm sitting here talking to you, and all I can see is your pen, and it says Fearless. And I love that your pen says Fearless. So tell me that story. You're wearing...
I am.
We don't wear
yes.
pins like that without a story.
Well, my story is I just am so lucky to have such a lovely relationship with Scott Golem. And gosh, we're going on 11 years.
Oh.
And so he went to do some honeydews at Uptown Forum for me the other day. And he had this little list to do for me while I was at home. And he picked this up at Lenore Cole because he sees me as fearless. And I appreciate that that's the way he sees me.
Yes. I
Yeah.
see that too. You are fearless. I mean, that one goal that you set around 30 made you unstoppable. And had you not done that, your story wouldn't be what it is today.
It wouldn't. And it was hard and scary. And
Yes.
and sometimes it's boring when you have a goal and you have to not do some things. Somebody said one time that to reach a goal, a lot of times you have to say no. Or if you have ideas, you can have 10 ideas, and a lot of them are really good.
Right.
That you've got to figure out which ones to say no to, so that you can get the best goal.
Yes.
Yeah. I love that idea.
That is so
Yeah.
true. I have to stay focused on that, because I always have lots of ideas and I'm ready to execute every single one of them when they come to my mind. But I do have to back up and stop and say, okay, which one is the best goal that I need to focus on? So,
And I do love, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I do love your fitness journey.
Oh, thank
And I'm really
you.
inspired by it. And so I can see that you are saying no to sleep so that you can get up and go do your workout.
and do
so
the workouts.
Kudos.
Oh, thank you. And I learned to say no to the foods that weren't good for me, you know. But it got easier. I mean, it was
Yeah.
hard at first,
It's a
and
muscle.
now it's just my lifestyle, and I love it. And you know, yeah, I lost 77 pounds in 7 months, and
That's
so
incredible.
it is incredible, and it's still surreal to me, frustrating to me, because I spent all of my adult life overweight. And if someone would have said at 21, hey, if you'll just spend 7 months of doing the right things, diet and exercise, and change your lifestyle, you won't have to fight that battle. I wish I would have known that and listened. I would have probably.
Well, now you do.
And now I do. So now I'm like, okay, don't spend your whole adult life unhealthy. That was the main thing too. You get to a point in life that you want to be here to see your kids grow up and know your grandchildren and, be here as long as you can and to be healthy too.
And to be healthy.
So I've enjoyed it, and I appreciate the people who follow along. I'm like, they are tired of seeing my face with no makeup and sweat and all that. But no, I do. If it inspires one person to change their lifestyle, I hope it does. That's why I love to share it. So thank you for that. And we have to take care of ourselves.
We do.
And you're a leader and I'm a leader, and so you can't lead if you don't take care of yourself.
That was a lesson learned from doing disaster relief and American Red Cross is, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
That's right. That's right. Gail, I've had the best time talking and visiting
too.
with you. I know
It's
you
been
so
fun.
much better now. I'm going to ask you to pick a number between 1 and 20, and this is going to be your final question.
12.
Okay, number 12. What has been the most difficult challenge so far in your life?
Oh, gosh, there's so many. Which one is the most difficult? I would say it's just... my sister and I both say the hardest thing we do every day is get out of bed. That is the absolute truth. It's the hardest thing. Once I get out of bed, then everything is going to be great.
Why is it so hard for you? What is it?
I probably don't sleep well enough, and I don't get to bed early enough, and then getting up. Honest to God, is the hardest thing I do.
Really? Do you hit snooze a bunch of times? Or do you set your alarm later?
I set my alarm for 5:45, and then I hit that off, and then it goes off at 6, and I get up, and I walk all the way across the house and turn on the coffee maker, and then I go back to bed. And that is the best sleep between 6:02 and 6:15. And 6:15, I'm up. Yeah.
But you figured it out.
I figured it out.
Got it
I figured it out.
out.
And that's the thing. That's the thing with challenges, right? What's the hardest thing you do? Everybody has whatever's hard. You just have to figure your workaround.
That's right. That's right. You've always got to find that workaround. Oh, and you have done that. You have figured your workaround out in life. And
I've got lots of workarounds.
I know. I know we're wrapping up, but do you have any other goals or dreams you want to share about? Because now you know how to set a goal, how to reach a goal, how to exceed a goal.
I can't share them yet, but yes.
Oh, I love it. It's like a little
Stay
tease.
tuned.
Like, stay tuned. There's more to come. I can see that. You have so much life in you, and I love it. So yeah, I will definitely be staying tuned to see more to come. Thank you so much for investing in our community. Thank you for coming back to Greenville. It's really cool to see someone who was raised here come back here and bringing what you learned from the world and bringing it and pouring it back into our community. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you do. And this was a blast. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for coming on the show, and I will see you around town.
I'll see you.
Thank you for watching Heart of Greenville. This video series, which is designed to celebrate Greenville, Texas, is spearheaded by REMAX 3D Real Estate.